What is up, denizens of the interwebs? It's Arza Chats here, and as we all know, the comic book industry has been in a bit of dire straits as of late, as every single one of their books flops massively, with a single manga outselling the entirety of the Western comic industry, with a single man outselling the majority of Western comic books, Eric July, in his indie books. It's an absolute embarrassment to be a modern comic book writer, with Marvel and DC getting the shit absolutely kicked out of them in regards to comic sales, to the point that the resale market is barely even existent, where none of their modern books are getting any kind of attention or positive praise whatsoever because, well, they're just shit. With DC launching their Absolute Universe, which looks, oh my god, it looks so bad. The no longer farm boy Superman, the poor Latino Batman who uses a battle axe that's attached to his chest, I guess. And then Wonder Woman, who is just covered in tattoos. It's not interesting. It doesn't look good. It doesn't look like DC either. And it's an absolutely bizarre thing for them to go all in on, given the fact that nothing they're doing is working right now, because there isn't a single thing that they are capable of doing. But of course, one of the things that really gave DC a huge boom in recent years, the Injustice timeline, which happens to be one of my all-time favorite video games, especially fighting games. I love the story of Injustice, and it was one of the comics that really got me into reading comic books. And I know that's a common story. I started out, admittedly, at first I started with a compendium of Spider-Man books, but then I moved into the web comics of Injustice Gods Among Us Year 1. I've read, if I remember correctly, Year 1 through 3, I believe it was. I've sunk easily 100 hours into Injustice Gods Among Us, and I've sunk easily 300 hours into Injustice 2 on Steam and an additional 300 on Xbox. It is one of my favorite games. I love playing it. And while I prefer some Mortal Kombat's, it really is the best NRS has ever had to offer, with an amazing lineup. But that doesn't mean that the people behind it are immune to criticism, with the person who wrote the Injustice comics, Tom Taylor, being one of the biggest jokes in the comic book industry, who's done a whole bunch of comic books, and every single one of them is littered to the brim with identity politics. Now, for the early books of Injustice, Tom Taylor was on a much tighter leash, given the fact it was early in his writing career. He didn't put nearly as many politics into the earlier issues. However, when he came back to rewrite Year Zero, that's when he really started to push his agenda, because he retconned the Injustice universe to have Harley Quinn and Ivy dating before the Joker had died. So Harley was still obsessed with the Joker, but had left the Joker to get with Ivy, and then she was pregnant with the Joker's baby, but she was still obsessed with the Joker, but she gave away the Joker's kid, even though she was obsessed with the Joker. The retcon made no sense, and it didn't work for the world of Injustice, because prior to the death of Mr. J, she was still fully on board and fully obsessed with the Joker. However, Year Zero retcons that ending, and makes it so that she hated the Joker, and then got rid of his child, and got married to Poison Ivy, and then went back to the Joker so she could mourn the death of the Joker when Superman kills the Joker. Tom Taylor has never been a talented writer. He got it pretty right with Injustice, but that's pretty much the only good thing he's ever written, and I'm pretty sure it's not because of him it went so well. Injustice is also the book that got me to love Martian Manhunter. I remember his death, though I was never convinced he actually died in it, because no body, no death. But c'est la vie. And then, of course, I was blown away when I discovered Blacklist Universe on YouTube. The guy who is doing the best redesigns of the Concord and Suicide Squad Kills the Justice League characters turned out to be the predominant artist behind the Injustice books, designing most of the most impactful and important panels on the book. But lo and behold, a lot of people have an issue with someone like Mike S. Miller, given the fact that he is a stout conservative and a stout Christian, having him be canceled from the books, and most recently with their compendium, they have stripped his name from the cover of the book. Coming from Fandom Pulse, DC Comics fails to credit artist Mike S. Miller on the Injustice compendium cover. Mark S. Miller is one of the most famous DC Comics offerings in recent years. Injustice, the spin-off of the video game, with an evil Justice League, that's not quite right. That's wrong. Fandom Pulse. It's not that they had an evil Justice League, it's that several members of the Justice League were joined into Superman's regime. Superman was evil. A lot of the Justice League members were not evil, but were instead falling into the ideological trap that they must follow Superman. Interestingly enough, the downfall of Superman is quite similar to the downfall of the left in modern comic books, as they all followed a dangerous man with a dangerous ideology down to the grave, with only a few people being able to escape, such as the Flash and Batman and Green Arrow, who weren't able to go where Superman had went because they realized that he was going where they couldn't follow, into a place of dictatorial control, which is identical to exactly how DC has fallen to the ideological dictatorship that they are in. Now, DC Comics refuses to acknowledge him on the cover of their recent Compendium edition. Now, as Phantom Pulse puts it, conservatives and Christians are persona non grata in the comic book industry, with blacklisting happening anytime it becomes known a creator worships Christ or votes for Donald Trump. The hatred of anyone thinking differently than the corporate hive mind has been exposed in recent years, and Mike S. Miller was one of the first artists to fall victim to it. Jesus promised us there would be antagonism if they hated him. They would hate us. As the industry moves farther and further to the left, they stand more against the traditional beliefs of the Christian faith. Add into the squeaky wheel of left-thinking social justice warriors who feel they absolutely must report anyone who denies their social Marxist agenda to the publishers. It's safe to say there is an antagonism towards anyone willing to speak up for the traditional doctrines of Christianity. Mike S. Miller said in an interview with Bleeding Fool in 2021. He blames the current state of the industry on TDS, saying it got really bad when Trump was elected. Trump derangement syndrome is actually a thing. The mainstream media successfully programmed left-leaning people into believing that if you were a conservative and you voted for Trump, you were a Nazi. I had family say they were scared of me, say they didn't talk to me, all because of TDS. And that bled over into any conservative out there. The brainwashing, the lies, told that Trump and his supporters by the media and spread through the social media have brought us to the brink of civil war. That mindset is as firmly set in the left-leaning publishers and editors at the big companies as it is anywhere else. And of course, that's probably the reason why, if you look at it, the majority of modern publications, the villain is the Donald. The Don is the main villain of most modern comic books, with him being a fat, white, conservative-leaning man who's running the government or trying to make something better. I mean, they literally made him the villain of Black Lightning. The guy literally says it's time to make America great again in Black Lightning. Top-tier writing, I know. I mean, hell, this isn't the last time that DC has gone demonizing people. Don't forget, they've put a whole slew of different streamers in there, including Eric July and D-Day Cobra as villains of their books. So it's impossible to say that their TDS hasn't destroyed what little integrity they had as an industry. Since his time being blacklisted, The Left has tried to hurt his business by sending letters to comic conventions to get him canceled for appearances. In 2018, he was blacklisted and removed as a guest from Grand Rapids Comic-Con because of his outspoken efforts. But of course, being silenced by the industry doesn't stop people who actually care about comics. With people like Eric July coming out and publishing his own line, a whole bunch of different Comicsgate people who no longer have the justification they needed, and I'm glad that Mark S. Miller is no longer a part of that organization. If you guys haven't seen it, there's an amazing documentary about Comicsgate. I'll pin it down in my comments, so you guys should go check it out. But he hasn't created the property Lone Star, which sounds really interesting, and he's worked with the popular YouTuber Shad M. Brooks on his Shadow the Conqueror fantasy graphic novel. Now, I did not know that. That would explain why the art looks so fantastic, but I had no idea that Mike S. Miller was the one who worked on them. But it's undeniable that Mike is best known for his work on Injustice, which was written by Tom Taylor. Now, Tom Taylor was the person who made Superboy gay with his pink-haired K-pop invincible boyfriend, so they couldn't fridge him. The most terribly received run DC has ever done in recent memory. He's also the one who decided to make it commonplace for Poison Ivy and Harley Quinn to be a couple, which is one of the worst couplings of DC of characters ever, actually, that I've ever seen. It doesn't make sense. It doesn't work for either of the characters involved, and the only reason people keep it going is because it's gay. However, despite the comic having seen multiple prints, including Omnibus, I'll have to get that, and now a Compendium, but with the Compendium edition, they left Mike S. Miller's name off the cover. The artist posted about this to his ex saying, "Just got the new hashtag Injustice Gods Among Us Compendium in the mail. At DC Official, left my name off the cover even though I drew nearly a third of the book. That's injustice." And as you can see up here, there's Tom Taylor, Brian Buccellato, Bruno Redondo, and Jeremy, Jeremy Rapak. Who the hell spells? I feel bad for that guy. But on the inside, they do credit Mike S. Miller in here, despite the fact that they left him out on the front cover. But this wouldn't be the first time that Mike S. Miller would be ignored from the credits of Injustice, given the fact that in the DC animated movie adaptation, he was also not listed in the credits for his work on the comic book, though the other major contributors were listed as well. But honestly, that's probably for the better for Mike. The Injustice cartoon was fucking shit. It was really good for about the first 10 minutes, maybe the first 30 minutes. But the thing is, they tried to shove all 5 years of the Injustice timeline into a single movie. A single 80-minute movie at that, and it was horrendously done. It didn't work. You should not go and watch it. It was terrible. The biggest crime, though, was when they replaced The Flash with Mr. Terrific, completely ruining the weight of all of the scenes that The Flash had in the original comics. Because there's one scene where The Flash and Superman debate gun control, and credit to Tom Taylor, they actually disprove the idea that we need to get rid of guns in that one thing. Though it's a shame that he was able to write such a good comic in Injustice, but then immediately fell off into the loony bin immediately after and couldn't carry on that actually based writing. But, of course, Injustice isn't the only project to ignore and hide people who had worked on the projects, with the recent Battletech anthology failing to list conservative creator Blaine Pardoe on Amazon. It seems a new trend for corporations to try to erase conservative creators from existence by not crediting them for their work on public platforms. DC Comics is already in dire straits, going all in with their recent identity politics, having sunk their book sales before the relaunch. However, much more insult can they give to conservative creators and fans before they finally go under. Now, let's be very clear, though. As much as Fandom Pulse likes to paint conservatives as the victim, the conservatives are not the victim. It's anyone who isn't far left. So no, it's not how far can they go before they chase away conservative creators and fans. It's how far can they go before they push all the normal people out. But Mike S. Miller seems to be doing pretty good with himself, even though DC is treating him like shit. With his Blacklist Universe YouTube channel having 11.8 thousand subscribers, which is a pretty good number if I do say so, in which he spends most of his time redesigning characters, redesigning Lara Croft, redesigning characters from Suicide Squad Kills the Justice League. This one was really interesting because it looked nothing like Captain Boomerang, but it was such a cool character that he might be using it as an independent character. His redesign of Harley Quinn was an absolute classic, and the redesigns of the rest of these characters was insane. I also had seen his stuff exposing the truth about Injustice 2, and I kind of wish he would eventually just break NDA and spill his guts, because I would love to know why that game's story was so weak and what they had originally planned, because to be completely honest, they really dropped the ball in Injustice 2, bringing Brainiac in as the villain. I do need to see this one, how he fixes Absolute Batman, because Absolute Batman looks like shit. Because look at that absolutely bulky logo, and I'm not shitting you, his logo turns into the head of a fucking battle axe. I'm going to Kurt Cobain myself. But so yeah, with Injustice being one of my favorite franchises, it's such a shame to see him being treated this way, and it's kind of leaving me really worried for when Injustice 3 eventually comes out, if it ever does, that is. After all, Warner Bros. Says they're doubling down on NRS Studios and working more closely with their projects for the focus of their gaming section, but it's not clear whether or not Warner Bros. Has any interest in putting Injustice in the list with Mortal Kombat or not. And it's such a shame that I'll probably have to be passing on this compendium, because any company that would rather put identity politics over truth is not one that I want to support, even though I love Injustice and have been planning to get all the Injustice comic books eventually. But that's pretty much what I've got. Check out that Comicsgate documentary, and check out Mike S. Miller's YouTube channel for some of his amazing redraws, and I will see you guys on the next one.